Breaking Negative Thinking Patterns. A Schema Therapy Self-Help and Support Book. By Gitta Jacob, Hanny van Genderen and Laura C. Bayer. Identifying your behavioral patterns with schema therapy. Self-identification is the primary condition to cause change in one's life. You must know the context first before you ever expect any changes in response to your efforts. Knowing about your behavior along with what causes it, you can fix it up to its potential best. Once you are done with the identification of your individual behavioral patterns as well as the factors which trigger them, it becomes easier for you to convert those patterns into healthier ones. The therapy involved in changing your behavioral patterns is known as schema therapy. Schema therapy deals with your mode or mental pattern which you have adapted as a result of your childhood experiences. Schema therapy, being the latest and advanced form of psychotherapy, ensures the effectiveness and reliability in the mode-changing context. It is because this latest form has resulted from the combination of therapies like deep psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, humanistic or client-oriented therapy, Gestalt therapy and psychodrama. Below are the modes in which schema therapy categorizes individual behaviors. 1. Angry or impulsive child mode. This is emotional vulnerability potentially caused by negative emotional experiences in the childhood like anger, rage, etc., which not let a person grow up emotionally. 2. Dysfunctional parent modes. This state of mind basically results from parents and other people's inappropriate behavior towards children which tell them that they are worthless. Dysfunctional parent modes are further segmented into 3 modes, that is, demanding parent mode, guilt-inducing parent mode, and punitive parent mode. 3. Coping mode. Coping modes are the result of survival strategies adapted to hide the actual effect of emotional disturbance experienced in the childhood. 4. Healthy adult mode. Unlike the dysfunctional modes, healthy adult mode refers to functional and healthy mode formed due to positive emotional experiences. 5. Happy child mode. Happy child mode reflects the natural need of every individual to experience fun, joy, ease, and happiness. Once we recognize our respective category of their modes, we further need to take the steps required to fix them up. That is what we will further address, what it really takes to detect the modes along with their root causes and how to replace those behavioral patterns with the positive ones. The modes can be relatively learnt about with respect to different mental levels which include cognitive level, emotional level, and the behavioral level basically. Thus, they can be explored through analyzing thoughts, feelings, and behaviors respectively. Having said that, what we must move on to now is to discuss each of these modes and how they can be coped within an individual's context. This will help the individual explore his or her respective mode in order to deal with them respectively. Child modes. All of us feel like behaving in a childlike manner at times. We manage ourselves not to behave in such a way in the social conditions as it may sound inappropriate. It is because child mode responses are based on the emotional experiences of the past. When these emotional experiences are not coped with in an appropriate manner, they lead to such vulnerability and you fail to manage your inappropriate behavior. In order to manage them well through fixing them up with schema therapy, it is important that we understand what really leads an individual to fall in the category. It is triggered when you experience deprivation with respect to the basic emotional needs in your childhood. Basic emotional needs can be categorized in the following ways. 1. Feeling of safety, attention, love, and acceptance from the people around. 2. Being aware of one's basic rights, potential competence, and individual identity. 3. Expressing one's feeling and needs freely. 4. Expressing spontaneity and enjoyment naturally. 5. Acknowledging and accepting realistic boundaries. Our emotional sufferings are basically due to getting deprived of any of the above-mentioned areas. As a result of such deprivation of the basic emotional needs, children are quite likely to fall prone to one or the other child mode. Schema therapy categorizes child modes into the following modes. 1. Vulnerable child mode refers to all the depressive aspects of the mood, including anxiety, sadness, loneliness, despair, helplessness, shame, abandonment, humiliation, or abuse. 2. Impulsive child mode indicates all the aggressive aspects of mood, which may include irritation, rage, anger, impulsivity, defiance, stubbornness, lack of discipline, and spoilt behavior. 3. Happy child mode reflects the positive side of mood, expressing playfulness, easiness, curiosity, fun, confidence, safety, and lightheartedness. You can identify whether you belong to any of above-mentioned categories or not by evaluating your behavior with regard to its indicators. It is further suggested that you get the help of someone reliable in order to get the better idea of your behavioral patterns. If you repeatedly feel any of the attributes associated with these categories and cannot help yourself feeling it in the long term, you are most likely to belong to that specific category. Moreover, you must find the triggers in your past which led you to have adapted the specific emotional behavior. Otherwise, you will be unable to understand what really needs to be fixed. If you find yourself to have the attribute of happy child mode in your behavioral pattern, you are further suggested to ensure its stability. Dealing with vulnerable child mode. The vulnerable child mode, as have already been discussed, is triggered by the negative emotional experiences in the childhood. These negative experiences include depravity of basic emotional needs mainly. In order to cope with it, you must ensure to get acquainted with it at first. You need to find the origins of your behavior before you move on to fix it up. Following steps can further prove effective in this respect. Step 1. Get to know about it by taking a journey of your inner self. It will require you to find some quiet place where you can relax yourself and leave your mind wandering with the past memories. A conscious and comprehensive approach in this regard will definitely bring you the causes behind your vulnerable child mode. Step 2. Having sought the causes, you need to acknowledge your behavior as a part of natural process. This will help you tolerate the feelings you have been fighting with for long enough. When you find it getting triggered, keep yourself conscious enough to decide how to calm it down. It is because of you acknowledging and knowing yourself with the affected state of mind. You are further required to be compassionate to yourself and take a friendly approach towards the very state in order to get yourself rid of it in the long term. That is how you can cope with the vulnerable child mode. Dealing with impulsive child mode. Impulsive child mode, as has already been mentioned, results from the deprivation of basic emotional needs. This lack in the fulfillment of the emotional needs leads to defiant, enraged, angry, impulsive, spoiled child mode. Therefore, if the same needs are ensured to be fulfilled with conscious effort for certain time duration, the mode can be managed well. Though the mode is originated with regards to the mistreatment, it can trigger any time when you get to encounter the similar experience. In order to cope with or rather avoid falling prey to such situation, you are suggested to carry out the following steps with conscious effort. Step 1. Identify and be aware of it thoroughly so that you can acknowledge it well. You can do so by imagining any incident having the very mode prominent in it. What you further need to do is own it as to have duly evolved as per circumstances. In this way, you can not only calm it down whenever it gets triggered but also make it work for you to accomplish your goals. Step 2. Once you have ensured to acknowledge and own your mode along with its origins, it is suggested to fix the very gaps which paved the way for its growth. You must try to avoid lacking in your emotional needs. It is due to these very needs that you became prone to this state of mind. What you must ensure is to fulfill such emotional needs which you could not experience in your childhood. Furthermore, you are supposed to limit it by consciously handling the state every time you encounter it. That is how you can deal with your impulsive child mode. Empowering the happy child mode. Unlike the vulnerable or impulsive child mode, the happy mode must be sought as strength rather than an obstacle. It is because it helps you work in order and with positivity. When you find yourself enjoying what you do and feel pleasure in the longer run, it is suggested that you strengthen this state of mind against any potential vulnerability. To do so, you will have to follow the similar process to the other modes. First of all, get to know your happy child mode to its depth. You need to know what it is that keeps you contented even in the worst situations. It must have its roots in how your emotional needs were responded in your childhood. Reflecting on those happy childhood memories, you must further strengthen it by doing what intensifies your happy child mode. You are suggested to be patient and consistent with the exercise to build it on the natural grounds. Furthermore, being realistic and including others is also considered to be important in this regard. Dealing with the dysfunctional parent mode. Like the vulnerable and angry child modes, the dysfunctional parent mode also has its origin in your childhood treatment. If you have been brought up by the parents who devalued you or made you feel rejected most of the time, you may fall in this category. The reasons for parents' inappropriate behavior may vary from them being perfectionist to having certain family crisis. Children at that age are too immature to understand the causes of and the intentions behind such behavior, thus it leads them to develop certain negative patterns. The basic difference between the two modes is that of negative and positive respectively. Dysfunctional parent mode has harmful effects, while the healthy adult mode proves positively effective in this regard. Furthermore, instead of turning your face from the bitter yet inevitable truth of your life, you need to visualize the spoiled elements of your inner child. You are suggested to be cautious while carrying out this exercise as it may lead you to mood shifts. Having taken a conscious journey of your past, you must further replace those negative memories with the positive messages. A better understanding of the context comes from knowing what made your parents behave in a certain manner. It will further allow you to turn your negative perceptions about them into positive ones. Remember that it takes due time and effort to get rid of what has developed in you for years. Therefore, you are suggested to be patient and determined while putting in your best effort in this regard. Managing coping mode. The severity of dysfunctional modes depends on the extent to which you are exposed to rejection or abuse in your childhood. You experience tough time dealing with the dysfunctional elements when they are triggered severely, while you may manage to cope with them well if they are not triggered quite often. It is not only the frequency of their occurrence but also the varying nature of the individuals that determines the level of impact one will have in this regard. According to psychology, it is due to these coping styles of the individuals that some suffer a little while others are greatly affected by those dysfunctional elements. Coping style helps you against the threatening experiences. It lets you deal with your emotions as per your individual context. These coping styles or modes can further be divided into 3 categories which are mentioned below along with what it takes to switch them. 1. Surrendering is the coping mode in which you give up to the critical dysfunctional elements leading you to think and feel negatively about your own self. 2. Avoidance is the coping style in which you turn your face away from the problematic emotions so you do not have to face their after effects. 3. Overcompensation is the coping mode or style involving the opposite reaction to your dysfunctional demands and feelings. It requires you to have self-confidence in excess or to be dominant in approach to avoid feeling destitute. Thorough understanding of your respective coping modes as an individual is the primary condition when it comes to changing them as needed. It requires a conscious watch on how you think, feel, or act in certain situations. As you may fail to avoid the bias factor while checking it yourself, you are further suggested to learn about your behavior from some trustworthy people. especially those who are well aware of what you have been going through. Moreover, reflecting on the feedback you received in past is also important to help you understand how people find you. You can determine your coping styles by confirming if the people from different contexts share similar views on your specific behavior in emotional distress. Once you get to know about your coping modes to the best of your understanding, you are in a better position to reduce their severity so as to avoid the negative effects. This self-awareness further lets you keep a sharp eye on your behavior and manage it when the modes get triggered. Promoting the healthy adult mode. The healthy adult mode is what you can take as target style to be desired as your coping mode. It is your internal authority which fairly overviews your behavioral processes. This mode keeps your emotions in control while dealing with various different problems. Furthermore, it does not let you get upset on your failures and rather encourages you to deal well with them no matter how severe the situation is. Like happy child mode, you feel relaxed in this mode. The contrast between the two is mainly that of the sort of experiences depending on the age group, because as an adult you encounter more challenges and responsibilities. There are some tips below to help you promote your healthy adult mode. 1. Find some role model who you find to have a quite sound healthy adult model and adopt their behavior. 2. Be realistic in your approach towards life and accept it along with all its flaws no matter how serious they are. 3. You need to be honest with yourself to keep yourself disciplined in life and grow positively. 4. Make sure that you do not fail to consider others while paying attention to your own needs and give them enough time to be familiar with your change. 5. Have concrete idea of your target and the process to ensure your achievements in a realistic manner. 6. Visualize yourself in the healthy adult style in order to get through imagery exercises to get familiar with it. 7. Carry out the activities supposed to ensure your healthy adult mode on a regular basis for effective outcomes, like learning something new, having a chat with a good friend, taking responsibility of something substantial, reading a book, etc. 8. In order to approach the healthy adult mode, it is sometimes a good idea to try and experiment your behavior in a situation even if you don't want to. What we learned. What was the core message that we got from this book? Self-identification is the primary condition to cause change in one's life. You must know the context first before expecting any changes in response to your efforts. Schema therapy, being the latest and advanced form of psychotherapy, ensures the effectiveness and reliability in the mode-changing context. The vulnerable child mode is triggered by the negative emotional experiences in the childhood. You need to find the origins of your behavior before you move on to fix it up. Impulsive child mode results from the deprivation of basic emotional needs. Unlike the vulnerable or impulsive child mode, the happy mode must be sought as strength rather than an obstacle. You need to know what it is that keeps you contented even in the worst situations to empower your happy child mode. You are suggested to be patient and consistent with the exercise to build your happy child mode on the natural grounds. The reasons for parents' inappropriate behavior may vary, from them being perfectionist to having certain family crisis.